We'll call the March 19, 2026 Reno County Planning Commission meeting to order. Staff, will you please call the roll?
Isley. Here. Strand.
Here.
Schaefer.
Here.
Seltzer.
Here.
Macklin.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Goodson.
Here. Welcome to everyone. Trust you've had a chance to review the packets, and in those packets were the minutes from February 19 meeting of the Reno County Planning Commission. Chair will entertain a motion on those minutes.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. The Kansas Supreme Court has defined a conditional use permit public hearing as a quasi-judicial function to ensure the rights of all parties of interest and to provide an opportunity for each party to address the Planning Commission in an orderly manner. The Planning Commission will follow the fact-finding procedure which is outlined in the handouts in each chair. Your attention to this procedure is appreciated. If a recommendation is made tonight, that recommendation will be based upon the record of information presented to the Planning Commission. The County Commissioners will not conduct a separate public hearing or accept additional written documents. The County Commissioners will consider written requests for additional public comment or documents based only on valid claims that the public hearing process was incomplete or based upon new information which has become available since the public hearing. For purpose of this County Commission policy, the public hearing is considered incomplete only if the Planning Commission failed to follow its procedural guidelines, which resulted in a denial of due process to a party of interest, or if the Planning Commission failed to allow an interested party an opportunity for public comment. For purposes of the County Commission policy, new information shall pertain only to germane information which did not exist at the time of the public hearing or which was unknown or could not have been discovered with reasonable diligence. An example may be a traffic study completed after the Planning Commission recommendation. Planning Commission recommendation to the County Commissioners will be accompanied by a summary of proceedings before the Planning Commission at its public hearing, along with the report and recommendations of county planner, letters, informal petitions, and other information constituting the record of proceedings provided to the Planning Commission before and during the public hearing. If the Planning Commission makes a recommendation after tonight's public hearing, this case will be presented to the County Commissioners at their next available meeting after the protest period expires. Contact planning staff or visit the county website for the County Commissioner agenda items. Any party who wishes to require the County Commissioners decide this case by a supermajority vote may file a protest petition pursuant to KSA 12-757 at the office of the Reno County Clerk, 125 West 1st Avenue, Hutchinson, Kansas, within 14 days following the decision by the Planning Commission. This form is on the Reno County website, Planning Department webpage. I'll now formally open the public hearing regarding case number 2026-01, a request by Leroy and Will McKime, agent JY Construction, Jerry Yoder, for a conditional use permit to establish a construction contractor sales office with an attached shop on land zoned R1 Rural Residential District. The property is located on the west side of South Yoder Road, approximately 2,200 feet north of the intersection of South Yoder Road and East Red Rock Road. Have any of the Planning Commission members had any outside contacts regarding this case?
No.
Do any of the Planning Commission members have conflict of interest with this case?
No.
Okay, at this time will the applicant please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 10 minutes to present your case. Additional time may be allotted to the applicant at the discretion of the chair. Planning Commission members may request clarification at the end of your presentation or may have questions.
Well, good evening. I am Jerry Yoder. Reside at 6515 South Yoder Road, Haven, Kansas. Owner of JY Construction. To give you a little bit of background to our business, JY Construction is a construction company that builds photo frame buildings, stud wall garages, and barn dominiums. And all of our work is done at our client's location. So I'm just going to put it out on the table. One question that you might come up, and I want to address it, touch on it briefly, is where are you operating out of currently? So my office is a home office, and from there I do proposals, drafting, material ordering, scheduling, and bookkeeping. JY Construction has 2 employees. One does sales and the other does drawings and material listings, and both work from separate home-style offices. We meet our clients at their site for consultations, and we use subcontractors to do the work. It would be really nice to have an office where our clients can actually come to us, and I guess that's why I'm here tonight. So we are seeking approval to build a 30 by 40 office with an attached 50 by 80 shop for JY Construction. And as the location was mentioned, it is approximately 2,200 feet north of Red Rock Road on the west side of Yoder Road, and is currently owned by Leroy and Wilma Kime. We do have a contingency upon county approval purchase agreement with the current owners, and the property that we are looking at purchasing consists of 5 acres, more or less. There will be a 40-foot easement at the south property line to give Leroy access to his field, his ag field behind this proposed property. The projected build location on this property is, we are projecting to build it on the northern half of the property, and that is for 2 reasons. The first one is if you were to split the property in half, have a north half and a south half, just south of that midway point, there is a gas line that runs east and west. It runs west to, I was told Coffin C, it's a distribution gas line, and there's a 50-foot easement on that gas line. So the center part of the property is pretty much out of the question to build on. And then if you drive past it and look at it, the south half, if you look at the topography of it, or the slope of the land, it really slopes to the west. It's buildable, but it would take a lot of dirt work to get it suitable to build on. The north half is more ideal to build on, hence the reason for the location of the building on the north end of the property. This office will be used for sales, drafting, and accounting. There will be 1 to 3 employees at this office depending on the day and the time of day. We are not expecting a high volume of daily walk-in clients. However, if that comes, we would welcome it, but we are not expecting it. If we can get 1 walk-in a day, we would be happy. Some days might be a handful, other days might be none. So it's kind of our business. It doesn't flow like a retail business does. The 50 by 80 shop will primarily be used to store a couple pieces of equipment. That's if the equipment is not in use on the job or elsewhere, like a skid steer or telehandler, for example. And also have some racks in there for some leftover lumber that might have been left over from a job, from a completed job. We do not stock inventory for retail purposes. We will be working with the county for proper permitting and sizing, if approved, for the new driveway, which would be approximately 300 feet south of the north property line. There is a current driveway at the south end of the property. It's a current field entrance. That could be used. That is where that 40-foot easement lines up with to get Leroy access to his property behind this proposed location. It would just make our driveway a lot longer to get to the northern end of the property. We would prefer putting in a new driveway. We are requesting a waiver to not do concrete or pavement on the driveway and instead use asphalt millings or more. That's what I put on my original proposal. More ideally, flint rock, which is a hard rock. It's not limestone. It doesn't track into a building like asphalt millings does or limestone. And we would like to use that for the final surface. There will be no manufacturing at this location. So we are also requesting a waiver on the county required loading space. We do not build mini barns. There will be 8 parking spaces in front of the building on concrete and 3 parking spaces behind the shop floor for employee parking. We are also requesting a waiver for the additional county-required parking spaces for the size of the building. Outside storage, which will consist of a couple trailers, will be to the west or behind the shop. And due to our materials being delivered directly to the job sites, there will be very little material delivered to this location. If and when material does get delivered, it will only be there for a brief transition period. Might get dropped there and we take it to the job site the next day. Minimal. I prefer everything gets delivered to the job site. It's just a lot simpler. And when that does happen, it will be placed inside the building or behind the shop on the concrete. We do not anticipate any material being stacked or dropped in front of the building. So to wrap it up, I guess our purpose to build an office at this location is to serve the community and offer our presence to whoever travels Yoder Road, but most importantly, provide a brick and mortar location for our clients to come to us to talk about jobs. Our goal for the property is for it to be well-maintained and to build a modest yet attractive building. So that is all I have. Do you have any questions?
I'd ask a question, maybe for my own clarification. You talk about post-frame building. Educate me, what is a post-frame building? Is that the same as a pole barn?
Yeah, pole barn. It's just a glorified name for a pole barn.
Thank you.
Pole, when I think of pole as a round, like a pole. Post, what we do is actually a machine-made post. So it's square dimensional.
So would I be correct in assuming that someday you may build buildings that are not pole barns?
We do currently. We do post frame, pole barn, and we also build stud wall garages, more like the residential style, and we also do houses, homes, barn dominiums.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I have a question. Well, first of all, thank you for being willing to invest in Reno County, and I wish you the best. You bought 5 acres, but you're using a very small amount of that. Do you have expansion plans or potential use for more of those acres, or?
That's a very good question. The reason we're buying 5 acres, there's a story to it. So when I first went, so if you look at the plat map, there's those parcels, there's two separate parcels, 13 and 9. And I saw that on the plat map, and I was like, I wonder if Mr. Kime platted that in hopes of maybe offering it for development or something. So I went to him. They know he didn't. That was a county thing with the history of the land. So I asked him, would you be willing to sell 3 acres? That's how it started. And as time went on, he thought, well, if he, rather than sell 3 acres, he might go through the hoops and see if he can divide it in 3 lots and sell all 3 lots. And there's a lot more involved with that on the county level. So I was like, okay, well, if you're going to offer all of it, we're interested in buying all of it. So it's not that we felt we needed it, the 5 acres to build on. At this point, we have no further expansion things in mind. We do in the future, but currently we do not. So that is that clear? That's kind of the story, the history of how it came to pass.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, Jerry. If not, since we don't have any more questions, we'll now hear from the planning staff.
county planner. So Mr. Yoder, I think, did a good job of explaining his proposal, so I'm going to skip kind of the background information in my report. He has pretty much covered all of that, but as you can see, and we've talked about from the zoning map, the property is currently zoned R1. Any type of business requires a conditional use. I'll have the other pictures here later, but it looks like it should be just two long parcels. There's actually a parcel, 9 and parcel 13. They're separate, and the reason for that is because it's part of the water district, and that's what I put in my report. I tried to explain that, a little bit later. Those two parcels are in the water district. Parcels 8 and 12 are not in the water district, and for whatever reason, that's why it's drawn that way. There is a little bit of a sliver. I believe the land out here is probably 10 feet, 20 feet. Not sure if that is actually, true or not. That's the way it's mapped. A survey will be done eventually here, and that will come out at that point in time on whether he wants to keep that or if he's going to leave it with Mr. Kine, the owner, or not. But that's the two parcels that we're interested in. You heard his reason why he's looking at purchasing the entire 5 acres. I'll just give you a little background on that and further explain that, Mr. Kine approached me about possibly dividing it into 3. Well, if you want to divide it into 3, you're going to have to rezone the property first to a zoning district that will allow you to have less than 3 acres per lot. And then when you divide parcels, then you're going to have to plat it into a subdivision, and our subdivision regulations would probably insist upon, having a public road serve all those lots. And so rather than go through that process, I think Mr. Kine just said, I'll just, be willing to sell the whole 5 acres for your proposal there. So setback requirements, 20 foot from the road right of way, 10 feet from all other property lines. In the performance standard, it does talk about commercial, retail businesses are permitted to have outside display of a product. You'll see that contained in my report that he would be limited to 20% of the total of that building if he wants to have any type of display out there. Again, parking, paving requirements, you've heard that briefly here. The regulations are going to require 18 parking stalls be installed. As you heard Mr. Yoder say, he's planning on having 8 parking stalls out front. There'll be 7 right here in front of the sales office, and then there'll be 1 over here, and then there's 3 that are going to be in the back. And these aren't the best images of it, but you do have all of those images in your packet. And I would like to point out this time that Mr. Yoder did provide an updated site plan. The only real update that you need to be aware of with that is the fact that he kind of identified where potential wastewater systems could go. As you saw in my portions of my report, there were some concerns that I'll get into later as to, the wastewater system that's going to go in on that property. So he was trying to articulate where potential systems could go. That's all going to be subject to actually getting out on the property and doing, the appropriate soil test here. But so he's requesting to have the 8 out front and the 3 parking stalls in back. Any sign that would be installed, he's indicated right now, if he does put one out there, it'll probably be on the building. The county does not have any sign code regulations, as you know, except if you're going to do something electronic here. Kind of go through some of the pictures right now. I'll take a pause in my report here. This is the initial drawing here where the office portion of the building is going to be the 30 by 40 area over here. And Yoder Road is going to be to the bottom of that. North is going to be to the right of the picture. The rest of it is going to be a shop storage area related to his business. A little more blown up drawing. This is going to be where the building is proposed right now to sit on the property. Again, Yoder Road is on the bottom of the page here. Over here you can see the 40-foot easement that he's proposing. That'll be included with the survey drawing that he does. Again, the 2 wastewater systems will be up on top. The employee parking will be way up in the back Up here, as you can see, there's gonna be 3 stalls. He's having 3 potential employees at any one time be on site. A little bit closer view of that updated site plan, again, showing the office building, the parking stalls out front, one additional one doesn't come in too clearly over here, and then the employee parking in the back. Some kind of proposed building features, this is what he's proposing maybe it to look like. You'll have the office portion on the left side, the shop building, and this is kind of looking west off of Yoder Road. So if you're driving down Yoder Road, this is potentially what the building will look like. Looking from the back side, kind of looking back southeast toward Yoder Road, this would be the back side of the building with 2 large overhead doors. This would be an aerial photography picture of the area. Again, we're looking at this parcel right here and this parcel right here. The easement will be on the south side of that property, and that easement will serve this field and this. And again, we're talking about one large field if you're out there, but it's actually four separate parcels of ground. But that easement would help Mr. Kime be able to have access to this field or a future purchaser of that property. Residential house here, and then residential house up on the north side. Another aerial photo, we're looking up at this portion of the, this was put in place just to kind of give you an idea of where the town or village of Yoder is located versus where we're talking. Again, Yoder here, here's Yoder Meadow, if you're all familiar with that, on the west side, and we're up in here. Actual ground shot of the field taken in June of 2025. You can see the large tree row that's going to help shield the house to the north. That's what the property would look like. So your recommendation tonight needs to be based on the factors that are included in my staff report. I believe this is once again another classic example of why we have a conditional use-based type of requirement for commercial uses. If we had to rezone this property to commercial where other types of commercial land uses could go in place, it may be pretty difficult to approve something like that since it's in between some residential houses, plus it's farm ground. Listening to his presentation and reading his documentation here, this is mainly going to be an office building with a couple of pieces of equipment stored inside. You saw no manufacturing taking place on the property, and for the most part, no large deliveries of materials being delivered to that site. So it should be relatively, quiet there. 3 people are going to be in there doing drafting work and assisting his clients, with designs of buildings here. So I believe that, this is kind of why we put this in place, this type of zoning to help with these types of proposals here. This property will be served by the public water district, and then, like I said before, it'll have a wastewater system in place. That's to be determined where exactly. These drawings here is where he would like to have the system until the environmental people get out on site and actually do some soil testing. It's to be determined right now as to where exactly that system will go. I had comments in this report where typically we'll approve of a site plan per the drawings that are submitted here, but because of how narrow this parcel is and where the building is going to be, I did not include that in my recommendations, and that is in order to provide Mr. Yoder and also our environmental crews some flexibility on, we don't know what type of system you go in there. He has an idea what type of system he wants, but we don't really know exactly until we actually get out there. So if for some reason the building needs to be shifted to the south or shifted to the east closer to the road to give more room for the wastewater system, then with my recommendation here, he will have that opportunity to do that versus locking it down to the exact location that is shown on the site plan. The hope is that we'll obviously be able to leave the building in that location and everything will fit and comply with setback requirements. Probably mention here that I believe that this proposal is in conformance with our comprehensive plan for the reasons I stated in my staff report. I don't know how much you want to get into. I had a pretty long, drawn-out discussion in my report based on landlocking and these parcels here. I'll just kind of hit the highlights, and then I guess if anyone wants any further clarification, I can go deeper into that discussion. But Water District was created in 1988. Zoning for this area was created in 1991, and then the county did not require any type of road frontage for development until 1994. And so what I was trying to explain in a nutshell in my report is essentially that Mr. Yoder would have the ability to purchase lots 9 and 13 as shown on the map. And then if parcel 8 or 12 wanted a permit for a house, they would be a grandfathered in parcel and be able to do that. Now, further divisions of that ground, that's going to be, a concern that will have to be, discussed later on as far as having road frontage for all those other future parcels. But if you wanted a building or a house out there for whatever reason, the regulations would permit something like that. So that's what I was essentially trying to say, in my staff report and explain, because I figured there might be some questions by the board on that. So with that, I conclude that staff is recommending approval of the request based off of the 9 facts that you see listed in my staff report. And then I have also attached, again, nine conditions of approval. That number 1 would be that the parcel shall be developed as described in the plan of operation. Any lighting of the parking area or building shall be shielded and directed on the property. No light shall be directed on the adjacent property. No outside storage, except in compliance with the article on the performance standard, Article 9104-2. Any display of buildings that he would like to have, I recommended that they be adjacent to or behind the office building, so it's not sitting way out close to the road. No manufacturing or construction of buildings shall occur on site without an additional conditional use. So if expansion, is desired out there, and that expansion is desired to construct buildings on the site, come back for another conditional use permit, and we'll review that and see if that's appropriate at that time. Applicant shall install the 8 parking stalls in front of the building and the 3 additional stalls as is indicated in his site plan. And then essentially conditions 6, 7, 8, and 9 are our standard conditions of approval, where you gotta be in compliance with all applicable federal, state, and local regulations, and in compliance with all public works codes, policies, and regulations. Sent letters to 13 different property owners, and nobody responded with any kind of written response in favor or against. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation. Stand for any questions.
Mark, I've got a question on the landlockedness. So it looks like if this goes through, the parcel 12 has the potential to be like dual, like 2 parcels landlocked in, right?
Correct.
Are we setting up a potential problem in the future?
For parcel 12 being landlocked?
Yeah, since the access would be through 8. If hypothetically those 2 parcels get sold in the future.
I think it's essentially one, it's treated, it appears as one,
Right.
one farm field, obviously. That is a concern, but, you would have this potential easement,
Right.
down here that could serve that. I don't foresee this being developed in really the near future until at least sewers available and the water lines be extended at that point in time. That's something that would have to be looked at in you know, if development would ever occur. I mean, right now, it's strictly farm ground, and so, probably no more so than, you know, anything that's down here right now, like parcel 6 is landlocked. Sure, yeah, there's a little access easement that serves all of this area, you know, down in here, but this area still has the same concerns as would be up here as well. So,
There's a lot of landlocked parcels in that.
yeah, there is. There is. You know, and a lot of that was created with the parcel lines from the water district, you know, when they generated that for whatever reason back in the late 80s.
Does 1 and 2go all the way to Longview Road?
I can't answer that. I'm not sure. I don't know if it does or not.
Mark, the site plan that I'm looking at here, this one that shows, looks like green grass and then rock or asphalt or something there. Is that, all of that surface gonna be covered with,
Going to be covered with,
asphalt shavings or
yes.
rock or something?
Yeah,
The whole
and
area?
maybe Mr. York could speak to that as well, but it's my understanding, like right next to the building will be like a concrete, you know, surface, like an apron, if you will. And then you see in like the tan will be like an asphalt milling for the driving surface for the
What
parking
Harlan's
area.
referencing is on this diagram, this
Yes,
tan area basically.
yes,
All-
yeah, that's what I'm looking at, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one, yeah, that'll all be like millings.
Okay, you're recommending, sorry, Harley, are you done? I didn't mean to interrupt.
Pardon?
No, or you, I didn't want to interrupt you. I jumped in there.
No, I'm done.
You mentioned Mark Millings, and the applicant was talking about Flint Rock. Is there a, from your standpoint, is there an issue
No.
replacing one of the other?
Yeah, whether it's Flint Rock or millings, I think both maybe said, maybe I misspoke, but I thought we had talked at millings at one time, but yeah, if it's Flint Rock or if it's millings, it's either one's fine.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Does that exclude other types of gravel? And you mentioned limestone, which in proximity to the homes there can get dusty, so. Are we precluding other types of gravels or
No.
material?
We haven't gotten into the type of surface for the driveway or anything, but there's nothing mentioned in my report that would say require millings or Flint Rock or whatever.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
If there is anyone in the audience who would like to comment on this case, you may have 5 minutes to comment. Please come forward to the podium one at a time and state your name and address for the record before commenting. Audience members are only permitted to address the planning commission from the podium. Audience members are permitted only one time at the podium. In interest of time, if you agree with the comments previously made by audience members, please don't repeat the comments. Simply state you agree with the previous and then present new information to the planning commission. Statements and questions should only be directed to the planning commission, not the applicant or staff. The planning commission may choose not to answer questions or engage with the public. Questions regarding the application can be asked to the planning commission and answered by the applicant during the rebuttal phase of this public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to comment?
Yeah, I got a question. I'm Ron Nelson, I live directly north of this property. You talked about a small sliver of property?
Correct.
Would that be this right through here?
Correct.
Okay, when we bought the place from Glenn Nicely, he had 2.7 acres. Well, we wanted to add on to the house. So we went to him and I said, can we have another 15 feet off the back to the west to make it 3 acres? And he said, yes. Now, if it's ever been recorded or not, I don't know. I've seen some places say we got 3 acres, some places say we've got 2.7. So if that's sliver you're talking about, I don't know.
Right now, it's being identified as belonging to parcel 13, so my answer to your question would probably be, it doesn't appear to be
If you ever
yours.
recorded it, I guess that's my point.
Yeah. That's something you'd have to look into and check on your deed and see if it's on there. See, or maybe have it surveyed, and that would be able to set your property lines if you had it surveyed.
Right.
Then you'd be able to know exactly if you have that little sliver of ground or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we should have it because
Yeah.
he went to him
Yeah.
and.
These maps come from the appraiser's office, and they maintain that parcel layer, but that doesn't mean that there could not have been, some type of error. I mean, it's a very, very small strip of ground right there, so I would just.
He may have just done it verbally,
Yeah.
and I guess that's my point.
Right.
So theoretically, we're supposed to have 3 acres there.
Sure.
Thank you.
Does the applicant wish to add any more information? You want to add any more, Jerry?
Add unless maybe one question was directed for
Yeah,
me.
come on up and.
Harley, you asked the question on the area on that drawing, what surface it will be, and Mark did a good job explaining it. I didn't clarify it, but at the building, in front of the building, we'll be doing a 24-foot deep concrete, the full length of it for the parking spaces for the vehicles. And then on the back side, I forget now, I think it's close to 20 feet of concrete, the length of the shop. Or approximately close, I'd have to look at the drawing. But then everything else that isn't concrete will be the asphalt millings or the gravel. So I don't know if that clarifies your question or not, but.
Well, let me explain why I asked the question. I can't help but think the employees are gonna see there's 9 spots up there right at the building. They don't have to go all the way back there to park, and I just wanted to make sure they had good surface to drive back there if they were supposed to go back there.
Yeah. Understand. No, that will all be solid gravel packed down for good access to the backside of the shop as well, so.
Staff, do you have anything additional you'd like?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Does the commission have any further questions of the applicant or staff? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Acceptance or denial of the conditional use permit must be based on the factors that are listed in the staff report and found on the audience chairs. This is the time planning commission can discuss the case and ask procedural questions of staff only. Is there any other further discussion by this planning commission? Seeing none, chair will entertain a motion on this case.
Mr. Chairman, I move the case number 26-01, the request by Leroy Kime, agent Jerry Yoder, requesting conditional use permit from the Reno County zoning regulations to establish a construction contractor sales office and equipment storage building land use on 2 parcels of land zoned R1 rural residential district be approved based on the 9 factors and 9 conditions of approval listed in the staff report and as heard at this public hearing. I further move to approve a waiver from Article 10-101 for the number of required parking stalls Article 10-105-1, sub 1, requiring the driveway and parking stalls be paved with asphalt or concrete, and Article 11-101, requiring the agent to install a loading space, all based on the reasons listed in the staff report and heard at this public hearing.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, staff please call the roll.
Mizel.
Yes.
Strand.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Seltzer.
Yes.
Macklin.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Dirksen.
Yes. Build it, Jerry. Look forward to seeing it along Yoder Road.
Oh, we didn't ask about the contractor.
I think he's shady.
Well put together presentation.
Yep.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it. Stuff's pretty good. I'll remind everyone in attendance that the requirements that were stated prior to the prior case still stand. I'll now formally open the public hearing regarding case number 2026-02, a request by Lloyd and Arlene Borntrager for a conditional use permit to establish a farm retail store selling products not produced on site on land zoned agricultural district. The property is located on the east side of South Halsted Street, approximately 450 feet south of the intersection of South Halsted and Ranger Road. The address of the property is 10610 South Halsted Street. Do any of the planning commission members had any outside contacts regarding this case?
No.
No.
Do any of the planning commission members have a conflict of interest in this case?
No.
Okay, will the applicant please come to the podium, state your name, address, and for the record, you have 10 minutes to present your case. Additional time may be allotted to the applicant at the discretion of the chair. Planning commission members may request additional clarification at the end of your presentation or have questions.
All right, so good evening. I'm Lloyd Borntrager and owner of Borntrager Dairy, residing at the 10610 South Halsted Street. And I do have my wife along with me as well. Arlene's here as well. The address for the proposed store would be the 10604. I don't know if we had that on there, but there is a driveway there already. And so part of the thing that we're doing with the new store proposal is getting more of the people through the new driveway versus our personal driveway. So we have a little farm store on site through our personal driveway, and this would help us kind of move some of the traffic over from our personal driveway as well. So we currently have a small store, and it is smaller than what we prefer, and would like to build a bigger one. We'd like to sell, and the reason for this is for the permitting is for additional items that are not produced on site, which requires a retail type of building. So that's the reason for the application. The store that we're proposing will be located at the driveway, like I said, with about, yeah, there we go.
I've got one or not.
But there's an existing building right here, and so the corner would be, you can see the driveway come in. The existing building would be taken down. It was an old calf building. It would be taken down, but the corner of the new proposed store would be about where the corner is here, and then 90 feet, 50 by 90 is the proposed one. That's about 28 by 36 is what that would be. So it would go to the south from where that one is. And, yeah, there's about, this would be parking in here, and then there'd be, the driveway would still be open back to the red barn there. So kind of what our plan of operation is having a bigger retail space, and then also having our freezer and refrigerator inventory in it as well. And then also having at the one end the wash, pack, and kind of processing area. So our products are mostly focused, that we do are dairy products, eggs, meats, honey, and then other things that we'd like to bring in would be from other farms. It would be all farm-focused products, vegetables, fruits, nuts, meats, other meats that we don't do ourselves, canned items, grains and flours, bread. So anything kind of in that line is what we're planning on doing. So there'd be a restroom in the retail area. That gives you kind of an idea of the store area being kind of in the center, and then the entrance on the front there where the 8x30 porch is kind of what's proposed there. The processing, pack and wash area, and then the rest would be storage and freezer, cooler area, walk-in cooler, freezer area. The parking, I think we have 13 there, and then over here on this side could also be added for parking if we needed more. Do have the waivers also here for the paved parking. Also wanting to do like a asphalt millings for that, rock underneath with millings on the top. Loading space, requesting a waiver for that too, just because of everything's coming in with smaller vehicles, not having any big trucks coming in for big deliveries. And then the other waiver, the parking lot or the parking space, it's most generally it's just come in, shop and go, so it's not like they're parking for a long period of time is what our anticipation is. Let's see what else. Restroom in the retail space, where the store area would be. Sign right here, lighted sign there. There'd be some landscaping on each side of the porch there. I think that pretty much explains what we're wanting to do. We're on rural water, and sewage is if you go over there, there's a lagoon there. This one's the livestock lagoon from our dairy barn, and that one doesn't have capacity to go into that one. This one is for this household, and this is the one we talked with Darcy about going into this one for the waste. This one's a little, as you can tell, it's got a little more water in it than this one. My mom lives here, and very minimal use there for that. So, yeah, I think that's kind of what I have as far as what we're doing. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
In your diagram you have here, you show this one area for processing, pack and wash. What type of processing are you going to be doing in there?
For that, our dairy our dairy processing would mostly be in that, and just packaging of any items that, like our cheese or yogurt, like more or less our dairy side of stuff. Okay, what we do.
Stuff you produce there.
Yeah.
So I'm beginning to understand that your product that you presently sell are kind of on a year-round basis. It's not seasonal. And do you plan in the future to have some seasonal products such as garden items and stuff of that sort?
As what items? Garden?
As garden items?
Yeah, yeah, yep, so there'd be seasonal vegetables through the summer, but there's also like canned goods that would be year-round, like pickles and different jams and jellies and stuff like that.
What would be the source of those other products you'd be selling?
Mostly from area local farms, gardens, smaller owners doing their own gardens would be where most of it comes from.
Are you open 7 days a week or 5 days a week? Or?
Anticipated hours are 6 days a week, closed on Sunday. Right now, we're mostly just open in the afternoons from 1 to 6 through the week. But with a bigger area, we'd probably want to expand those hours to more like a 8 to 5. And I should mention, I put on there that possibility of having maybe a little couple of tables, seating area there, people who want to sit down for a bit and have some of the products we made. So that would be a possibility. Nothing in stone yet, but yeah.
I might have missed this, but what kind of parking lot surface are you planning?
That would be the asphalt millings, is that what you're?
Okay, it's gonna be the milling?
Yeah.
Okay.
At this point.
And on the parking, I'm having a hard time seeing how that, with those angled parking spots as they're drawn, how the traffic's gonna flow. If I pull into one of those, how am I gonna get out?
Yeah, so this is all one big area. So it's not like this driveway is divided by a parking. So, and this is just access back to the barn, so it's not like there's a traffic going back and forth there, but there is the ability to turn around. So mostly driving in, yeah, backing out is gonna be a little bit more of a thing, but figured with the area back here, there'd be enough area to get out.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you.
I have one.
Go ahead.
Mr. Wardre, could you just maybe briefly explain like the type of state regulations for all this? Just kind of impress upon the board that,
Sure.
that
Yeah.
you're regulated by the state and all of
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, so on the meat and poultry side, we have an inspector coming every year inspecting that. And then the dairy side that we do is the raw milk thing, and we, that doesn't require an inspection as far as the raw milk regulations, but they regulate us by only allowing us to sell at the farm in the store. They don't allow us to take it off-site and take it to a retail store or farmer's market. So that's kind of the way they regulate that. If there is any other need for more retail licenses that we're not aware of, we're happy to do that if need be. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're not looking at doing any kind of food prep or anything like that, correct? Like a cafe or anything like that?
That's not the plan at this point, to have like a kitchen serving area. It's not the plan at this point, but, yeah.
The meat you're talking about selling, that will be processed off-site?
Yeah, so that gets done at a USDA facility and then brought back, yeah. The meat inspector kind of makes sure that's all done to specs.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thanks. We'll hear staff report.
I want to first start off by putting on the record, you may have seen it in my report, that the legal notice and property owner notice contained the wrong township number. What was published was Township 22 South. I don't know if you had seen that in my report. The actual correct number is Township 24 South, but all the other information was correct, you know, the owner's name, the address, the parcel ID number, what he was proposing was all correct. It was just the wrong township number, and I did not catch that until after it got published, and it was too late to send a correction to the paper. And so I just wanted to put on the record that I regret that error. It should not invalidate this hearing by any means. I was only off by like 12 miles, I guess. So I apologize for that. Yeah, I did not catch that, but as you heard, this is a request to expand an existing farm store. As you see in my report here, when you produce products on site, you do not require you do not require the conditional use permit, but the minute that you want to bring in off-site products or have other merchandise for sale, which would be coats, keychains, hats, whatever, then that requires a conditional use permit. And so my legal notice also identified that he's going to be selling products on his, that he produces on-site as well as off-site products. So it just encompasses everything, so it leaves exactly no question of what's going to be taking place on the property. But we're looking on South Halstead Street, so just a little bit south and west of where we discussed with the other case here. On the west side of Halstead Street is the Habit Air Base area, if you've been down, in that area. So this, again, is the site plan. If you didn't know, Halstead Street here, parking here, and the store is going to be over on there, and it's going to be a new construction. And as you heard in his report, he's going to be tearing down an existing building to be able to construct this brand-new store. This is something that's in your packet. It didn't show up too good, on site, but what it's trying to depict is the different lagoons that he has on the property and the location of the new store. And I've got some other aerial photography that will show this up better. Again, as he mentioned, his KDG livestock goon is located on the north side, of that existing driveway, and then the other house lagoons are closer on the south side down here. I did not include this in your packet, but I wanted to kind of just briefly touch on base. That you've heard mentioned in his testimony and everything a little bit, that this is a survey that he had done back in 2022 for the Red Barn. So currently he has an Airbnb or another place that he can rent, and it's right up here. And so in order to comply with zoning regulations, he had to split that off into a separate 6.5 acre piece of ground. So that's what that survey is, and what I'm trying just to make the board aware of is that there are exactly parcel lines here. Now those parcel lines don't show up on the appraiser's map here because he owns the property. You can see it's still one big 38, 40 acre piece of ground, but there are actually a separate parcel there with that Red Barn that's out there that he rents. So I just want to make you aware of that, and the fact that, the barn that he's going to tear down and rebuild is still be in compliance with our setback requirements, so even though we've got a 6.7 acre parcel of ground that's sitting right there. And so the barn stuff is here, the parcel comes down and around and goes up there, so the store is going to be sitting in front of that parcel, so it will be okay because I've already verified all of that. Again, existing barn. This will be torn down and rebuilt. That's where the store will sit. They will use that driveway. There's not a lot of room, right at that lagoon, but he can have some overflow parking there if necessary. Like I mentioned in my report, the better location might be further on back here, either behind the store or on the east side of that lagoon. But regulations, again, require 23 parking spaces. If you just figure in the retail area of that, it requires 8 parking spaces, and then Mr. Borntrager is requiring, is going to install 11 spaces, and so he's kind of in the middle, of both. You've heard discussion again about the waivers from parking and paving, and also the loading space, so he's included that in his request for this. He does have one proposal for a sign that was shown on his one site plan right here. He's gonna have a sign that's gonna be lit right near the road right away, and I've had discussions in my staff report that said if he's gonna have it lit, then he just needs to make sure that light doesn't shine onto the road and potentially affect people driving north or south on Halstead Street here. This is kind of a broader picture showing, here's the sewer district lagoons, if you're wondering what that is. This is the Habit area on the west side of the road, and then his farm is on the east side. Right up here, this is not a house, it's just a barn, okay? So there's no houses near or across the street from him. Existing picture taken a few years ago here. That's the existing barn that's going to be removed. You can see the driveway that goes in. You can see here's the lagoon, the KDHE lagoon. So there's not terribly amount of parking spaces here, but he could use that for some overflow parking if it does get busy during certain times of the day. Next picture I have is just that's what is directly across the street, so you can see there's no houses or anything across the street from So then, again, your decision must be based off of the factors that I have outlined in my report here. I probably don't have anything else to add that I haven't already laid out in writing, so I would stand for questions and say that staff is recommending approval based off of the 10 conditions, 10 factors, and then I have 7 conditions of approval here. Talking about, again, lighting and construction again, and displays of food and merchandise on the property. Nobody contacted me, nobody responded with any kind of items in writing, so with that I'll conclude.
Mark, it appears there are, 2 homes on the property?
Yes.
Plus the red barn,
Yes.
which, I think he indicated that the lagoon he wants to use is the one that's used by the smaller house. I think he said his mother lives in.
Correct.
So what services the other 2, the main house and then the red barn? Do those go into the livestock lagoon, or?
So, and I'm sure Mr. Border will correct me if I'm wrong, his house and the operation are served by the KDHE lagoon, correct? Get that right? Yeah. So his house here, his mother's here, mother is served by this lagoon right here. And then that's the reason why we had to kind of split off the red barn. So the red barn is up here that he rents out, and then lagoon is at the top of the screen.
Oh, okay.
So that lagoon serves this. He checked into it with KDHE to be able to utilize this lagoon, obviously for his operation, because of the fact it's just right across the driveway.
Right.
KDHE said no to that, and the next option was to push the waste down to that lagoon. And he's been extensively talking to myself and Darcy, and we've been in communication with Mr. Britton here, and so Environmental does not have a concern about using that lagoon for the operations of the farm stand. So we have no
I
problem.
just wasn't sure what the other, I'm sure the other facilities there have restroom or water, where they were dumping.
Where are they at?
Where's it going? Yeah,
Which one did what?
yeah.
Yep, so-
What goes where?
So that's some work to, pipe it down to there, but he's aware of that. It'd been nice if we could have used it like that, but, that's not our lagoon, that's not a county lagoon, that's KDHE, so he's looked into that. But yeah, we've had many conversations over the last 6 months or so on his proposal.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
If there's anyone in the audience who would like to comment on this case, you may have 5 minutes to comment. Please come forward to the podium one at a time, state your name and address for the record before commenting. Audience members are only permitted to address the planning commission from the podium. Audience members are permitted only one time at the podium. In the interest of time, if you agree with the comments previously made by the audience members, please don't repeat the comments, simply state you agree with the previous comments and then present new information to the commission. Statements and questions should only be directed to the planning commission, not the applicant or staff. The planning commission may choose not to answer questions or engage with the public. Questions regarding the application can be asked to the planning commission and answered by the applicant during the rebuttal phase of this public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment? There, you just want to say something? No, you don't have to.
That's pretty good.
The applicant, do you have any additional information you'd like to give? Okay. Staff, do you have any additional information?
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Seeing none, I will now close the public hearing. Acceptance or denial of the rezone or conditional use permit must be based on the factors that are listed in the staff report and found in the audience chairs. So this is the time for the planning commission to discuss the case and ask procedural questions of staff only. Any discussion? Any questions?
I just want to say real quick, both of the cases tonight, I've really appreciated the thoroughness of the applications and the work done by staff. I know from my perspective, it's made this job a lot easier. And doing the work ahead of time instead of some other situations we've had in the past where.
We've had to vet it out on the fly.
Yes. I've been very appreciative of it. It's been nice.
I would agree with your comments, Alan. Very much so. Is there any further discussion? If not, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that case number 2026-02, the request by Lloyd Borntrager, requesting a conditional use permit from the Reno County zoning regulations to establish a farm retail store on a parcel of land zone AG, agricultural district, be approved based on the 10 factors and 7 conditions of approval listed in the staff report and as heard at this public hearing. I further move to approve a waiver from Article 10-101 for the number of required parking stalls, Article 10-1051 requiring the driveway and parking stalls to be paved with asphalt or concrete, and Article 11-101 requiring the owner to install a loading space, all based on the reasons listed in the staff report and as heard at this public hearing.
Second motion. Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion concerning the motion? If none, staff, please call the roll.
Isley? Yes. Grant?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Seltzer?
Yes.
Macklin?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
And Gertson.
Yes. Go for it. All right. Next item is other business. Mark, Do you have anything?
Just one quick thing, on your chair, I provided you some pamphlets here of a presentation that Don and and Jack was there, and I apologize if somebody else was there and they didn't, I didn't see you here. It just contains some information on data centers. So just for your information to read, I thought the board might be interested. I think it's kind of a topic that's getting more and more attention, so I thought the board would like to look at that at your leisure. That's all I have.
Does the board have anything? Needs to be brought?
Sit yourself, it's 5:40 p.m.
Okay, seeing none, well, I guess we'll ask, you told us already, we don't have any cases for April?
No planning commission cases. We do have a board of zoning appeal case
Okay.
coming up for April, so,
Okay.
yeah, no planning commission unless we have a reason to meet. If I can get some regulation proposals written in that time frame or so, then we might meet on that topic. But as far as public hearings go, we have no public hearings for the planning commission next month.
Okay, very good, appreciate it. All right. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.